Presented by That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster, this is Shonen Jumping the Gun! The show where we set our sights on the first chapter of a manga and decide if it's a misfire or a bullseye.
Let's see how many rounds are in this magazine.
On today's episode, boot it up, it's Hakutaku. Welcome everybody to Shonen Jumping the Gun. I'm your, I've been bullied the whole time, host, Kermit the Grog, here with my video game developer expert, Isekai Sensei-Sama Brad. Brad, how you doing?
Wait, let me finish this level. Hold on.
We gotta tighten the graphics on level 3.
No, I'm playing it.
Oh, you're playing it. You're bug testing it. You remember that ad that was like for a video game school back in like the early 2000s? They're like,
God,
we gotta tighten the graphics on level 3, just like the most. What are you talking about? Okay, we're already getting distracted. You can tell. Hi, and special guest star on their smoke break, Maxy Bee.
Woo, that's the noise a smoke makes.
You just blow.
If you didn't get it, we are covering new Shonen Jump manga, the last of our clutch of new manga, Hakutaku. I think I'm saying it right. I just want to say Hakutaku.
It's been a crazy 3 weeks.
It has been. We've recorded every week, all the time. Now we have a special guest. This manga dropped today, literally hours ago in the West, on September 22nd, 2024. So we are hours off the presses. Maxy, you're a bit of an informational historian. Do you have any extra details on this one? I know sometimes you know things.
Okay, so this is by Koki Ishikawa, and that is a name that shouldn't mean anything to anybody. They've done a couple of one-shots here and there, but if you are a Black Clover fan, and God knows I am, then you would recognize the name as being one of Tabata's Blank Page Brigade, which is to say one of his assistants that appear in the back of most volumes. So this, as is the case with every time one of the Blank Page Brigade gets a serialization, this is like, I'm here, I'm ready, let's see what they can do. They've learned underneath, like, the most fun author that I'm aware of from, like, the last 2 decades. Let's see how it goes.
Interesting. I'm sure they've assisted on other things. That feels like a big gap between Black Cat and 2024.
No, Black Clover.
Black Clover, I'm sorry. I think Shonen Flop is reading Black Cat right now. I think that's why I was thinking that. Black Clover makes infinitely more sense timeline-wise.
Yeah, so he would have probably still been working on it, helping with the Giga chapters, but that has a lot of gaps at the moment. The chapters only come out quarterly, it's not as many pages, so a good time to have your own series.
Yes. I thought you were going to say monthly. Quarterly sounds like a nightmare for Black Clover.
It's literally about 40 pages every season. Like, that's, it is a crawl to the finish, but my god, like, the serotonin I get when it actually comes out, what a world.
Oh.
I need it. I don't like Weekly Shonen Jump. I just like Black Clover.
That's why you're on the smoke break. You need that little bit of bump of serotonin. And with that, we will start Kermit's patented speedrun summary. We open on a girl, I think, in a video game strewn room, failing at making a video game despite trying for 2 years. I have made the choice by virtue of being confused about their gender and messing this up in a prior episode. I believe that was something Murakami.
Yokai Buster.
Yokai Buster Murakami. And that and a combination of a thing we'll learn later that I've been wanting to make references to but wouldn't make sense until we get to the end. I'm claiming them for non-binary. So I've used they pronouns this entire time. Splash page of our 2 leads. The chapter is called From the Beginning, which I probably should have been doing chapter names this whole time on the show, but hey, here we are now. We open on our main lead, Hikuma, thinking about how changing the rules for basketball would change things before some other students offload some responsibilities to go goof off. While he doesn't figure it out yet, it's made clear Hikuma is being used.
Did you say basketball?
Isn't it basketball?
Soccer. They're playing soccer.
I thought it was basketball for some reason.
There's goals.
Yeah, hoops.
No, like soccer goals. One of the things he mentions is moving the goals closer to each other as time goes.
It was the hoops. Just
they
I don't
Show a
think
picture of
I
them
don't know.
playing soccer.
I don't know. I don't know. I saw sports in a non-general manga format, and I was like, I saw sports, and I'm like, that's a lie. We're literally recording a sports episode directly after this one, so I can't use that as an excuse. I wasn't super clear what was happening here, but he goes sprinting off to find the school's advisor, who can't say no, Mr. Morimoto, outside on a smoke break, and drops off the student log that was foisted on him by the earlier mentioned students goofing off. It's like
No,
he has
that's
to
exactly what it
get
was.
like cones, and then it's like
The cones thing was a separate
he
task.
leaves 2 other people from doing that to go do that, and then he comes back for the cones. The teacher suspects Hakuma is being bullied, but he laughs it off. He's enjoying every day. He really doesn't have any friends, so he's very good at making his own fun and games in all things. He had some thoughts that I didn't understand to make this point clear. There's a lot in this manga that I was like really felt messy. I know. I'm just getting worse at this. I don't know what it is. Then our gender non-conforming homie from page 1 shows up. They are Raika Noto. They are here to claim their desk as they haven't been to school yet this year, but they are here now. Before leaving, they give Akuma a nickname, Veghead, and then leave. No one has ever given him a nickname before. We're now in the media room for making video games class. Everyone gets grouped up, and Akuma gets all the work that they put on him so they can go goof off. Raika notices this and shatters Akuma's glass that he is being bullied and has sussed out how much of a weirdo he is. Raika then pulls him in to make a video game which will somehow counteract the bullying, but they'll need to work in the media room at any available hour to make it in time for the assignment. They could follow the book, but they are going to go make an original one this time. A montage of them working hard in the game and sleeping in the media room at night to get it done on time. It's exhausting work, but they finish it. Raika asks Hakuma if he's getting anything out of this exercise, but we don't get to hear why if he says anything. Raika says they have an ulterior motive, but they are leaving it for now. We do not learn in this chapter as they send Hakuma to go fetch them something. While Akuma's out, he sees the goofing off bullies from before playing basketball. I think that's why I thought it was basketball. They play basketball later. And pretty much just say out loud that they do not like Hakuma, and that's why they're using and bullying him. It's very blunt. He returns and talks to Raika about this and has an opening up big autism moment where he doesn't really get social situations, but is frustrated about not being able to figure it out, which admittedly I really appreciated having.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yes, I'm glad we are. This is also the thing I called back to earlier of like, that's why I'm like, I'm claiming non-binary. It's like, these are 2 autism friends, and gender nonconformity is a big correlation with the non-neurotypical stuff. So I'm like, I'm claiming this one. Until anybody else can throw me off this, I'm claiming it. Cut to class due date time later, and the students are all playing the game and having a great time. It's not very clear what the game is or any other info about it besides the odds and ends the students say about it. Hakuma has
It looked like the game was you're playing as the smoking teacher, and he has to like go from place to place to like do, whatever a goal is. But the game is getting from one place to the other, but also his energy is based on smoking. And so like he has to find places to smoke to bring his energy back up.
And
it has to be like hidden and stuff. Yeah.
In his items, he also has a fire extinguisher, so you get the impression that he's having to avoid students and stuff by like creating smoke screens so he can get past. Like, it's very much in the vein of Kunio-kun or River City Ransom. If you've ever played any of those. Yes. This series is made for me. When it comes to spotting old pixel art games, I'm like, yes, this hole was made for me.
Hakuma has his non-neurotypical awakening, and now he's super interested in making video games. End of chapter. This is one I don't know if it's me. This felt like messy. There was a couple times where I was like confused what was trying to be communicated in a situation.
Apparently.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was just me. I had some struggles with was it Ichi or was it Shinobi? I think it was Ichi. There was some like panels where I'm like, I don't know what visually is being communicated
you were struggling with like the sword hilt hitting the shield.
Yeah. When he used
I was confused about that one.
You were also confused.
I thought he was kicking.
Yeah.
And then I went back and looked at it after we recorded. I was like, oh yeah, that's totally a knife.
Very clear. Yeah, I know.
This feels like the opposite to that. Visually, it's very scrappy. It can be kind of distracting at times for how it uses tones and how the line weight and stuff is. But the actual panel-to-panel storytelling and the conveyance is pretty clear. It's just muddied by the fact the art isn't good enough.
So it was I didn't really have any trouble with it in that regard, but I get where you're coming from with that, except for the basketball/soccer one.
Yeah,
I
that
thought
one. That one's
Yeah,
100% on me.
But the rest of them, I was like, yeah, like there were a couple panels where I had read it and looked at it, and I had gone maybe to the next page or something, and then I like went back and was like, wait a minute. I had to circle back like 2 or 3 times. So there was definitely some stuff in there that could have probably been a little clearer, but I think overall it didn't detract from it.
I think what's literally happening was clear to me. I think sometimes the emotional spin of like what is trying to be conveyed, like thought-wise in a situation, I was like, I don't understand what you're getting at. And other times I was like, oh, I get it. So I don't know. It just felt like collectively it just felt messy. It's like I don't like this is about video game dev, but we don't really see it. We mostly just see the suffering of like you have to sleep at your desk, and that seemed a lot like I didn't understand why him making a video game solved that he was being bullied.
I think we'll get that in the next chapter.
Yeah.
I feel like the idea initially seemed like it was going to communicate his true feelings to people that don't understand him because he moves at a different pace. But then the game ended up feeling a much more straightforward comedy thing just based on what we've learned that chapter, which was correctly pointed out in the Shonen Flop Discord by Forrest, that he's told not to disclose that the teacher was smoking on his break, and he literally makes it a core element of
He
the
puts
video
it in the
game.
game and outs him that he's been doing smoke breaks. It's like, oh man.
So there was a specific point where Rika, is it Rika?
Reika.
Raika.
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 Raika Noto.
Where they say like, oh, we're gonna put these people in this game.
Yeah.
Like these people that have been bullying you.
We don't have enough time to make a fully great game, so we're going to put things they recognize in it.
And that's going to be the catalyst to get you to stop being bullied. And I don't think we saw that part. So, because at the very end, we just saw like, oh, they're playing, everybody loves this game, they're playing it. And I think so probably at the beginning of the next chapter, they're going to be playing it, and those kids will show up in the game, and there will be something around that is going to either like humiliate them or expose that they're lazy or something like that. So that's more of a where do you think it'll go thing.
I wouldn't mind that so much, but I have a weird feeling it's just going to be, oh, we think you're cool now because you did a cool thing, which would be a disappointing outcome.
That was my feeling about it. Yeah.
They specifically called it out and said, this is what we're going to do. So if they don't pay that off, I'd be like, what are you doing?
I don't know. I guess to follow the where it's going train, so many other, like, I think I thought I was coming into this and this was going to be a craft manga, and maybe it's not. Mm-hmm. But the thought I have even more than that is like, most any other craft or thing you can do, it's like, I know there's the one about making manga. Like, even if you don't finish making manga, you can make a page or a chapter of manga and somebody can consume that in a meaningful way. Making a video game takes a really long time.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you fast forward on that. Like, are they going to make a bunch of games? Are they just going to work on one game and things happen while they're doing it? Like, what am I focusing too much? Is the game making just like I found my little spectrum thing that I love to do now, and this is what I put my time and how I make my friendships, which like that was the one thing that really brought me back around, was just like, oh, I feel this. Like, maybe it's because I'm having my own little non-neurotypical awakening recently, but it was just like, oh, I get this. I feel this. We've talked recently a lot about like main characters where I'm just like, I don't get this at all. Like, I know you're doing social anxiety, but like, I don't feel it like this to this extent. Like, it doesn't feel relatable, but this felt like, oh, I feel this, you know?
Yeah. I definitely, I pegged the autism thing. As soon as he started talking about like how he feels like the people around him, he can't connect to them and he can't follow their pace and the social cues and everything, I was like, oh yeah.
Oh,
okay.
We're being very clear. Like, I'm sure there's been non-neurotypical characters in manga before easily, but I don't think it's never been so specifically like, I mean, not that they literally come out and go, this character has autism, but it's like, essentially they did that. There's like certain things you can do for a lot of those things where it's like, I can tell you this without telling you this, and everybody who knows about it will know. That's what's being communicated.
I would love this one could do it, but just any series that has a non-neurotypical character in one of these, school settings or corporation settings in Japan, I really want them to explore this more, because you look at the way that Japanese society is set up, And so much of it, and the language especially, is built on the meanings that are underneath the words that you're actually using. And for, autistic people especially, but even people that are sort of on the verge of that, ADD kind of stuff, it's like, it's so difficult to have to navigate that all the time and always be figuring out what someone's actually saying underneath the words that they're using. And I really liked in this chapter how they portrayed that as like, yeah, these people, like in the US, we might not even consider those people bullies because they're going, hey, can you please do that? Can you please do this? Hey, can you help me out? Kind of stuff. And like, they're being nice about it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the classic, like, we see it in manga a bunch of, like, hey, you're going to be my gopher. Like, I don't think that's really a thing in America because it's like, schools in the suburbs, like, where are you going to go to? You can't leave school grounds. You're not going to go get me a snack. There's nowhere to get snacks from. So.
But yeah, I think those the Western idea of bullying is more overt and out in the open of, like, being mean, physical violence sometimes, that kind of stuff. Whereas, in the context of, Japanese schools, Japanese corporations, you can get this where someone is speaking to them very nicely. They're not being totally unreasonable or anything, but if you actually pay attention
between the lines,
to what's going on, they are being bullied. And it's something that I think about a lot in a lot of these series, especially when this bullying stuff comes up. Most of the time, the person knows what's going on. They just can't deal with it in a specific way. But like in this circumstance, where they're very clear about, like, this kid has issues with social cues and he's living in a place, he's growing up in this culture where you have to figure out social cues. That's like most of it.
Yeah.
And I really want to see more of that, explore more of that. Because it's a huge difference when we consider, like, Japanese culture versus, like, American or even British culture. It just doesn't work the same way.
It's interesting with the bullying and with neurodivergence because there's the two things. Is the ability to gamify everything, as they explicitly call it in this, to go and turn everything into objectives, to break it down into smaller things. Like, that is a very typical way. It's like, what's something you understand? I understand video games. Can I treat real life like video games? It's like, yes, when I'm in the back of my mum's car, I will pretend that I've got a little skateboarder grinding on all the rails down the highway.
Yes!
No, everybody does that.
I'm just imagining Tony Hawk doing sick pro skater
or
tricks.
parkour.
That's how it goes.
I always did Tony Hawk, but parkour works too, yeah.
But I am surrounded by a lot of people who are on the autism spectrum, my wife even included, and it is very easy for people to not know they're being mistreated because you take things on surface value. You're not reading what's said underneath. When someone is bullying you with politeness and kindness, what you're hearing is politeness and kindness, and you're not necessarily stopping and saying, I wonder what's underneath that. It's very surface level. Also, it's kind of interesting when it comes to how this is probably one of the most explicit autistic characters in Weekly Shonen Jump, especially for a protagonist. You get ones with traits, like one of the girls in Love Rush is very much written like that. It was cancelled though, so who gives a shit. But you think it has been 39 years since Zeta Gundam came out, an anime that did not hesitate to go and say, I'm Camille, I'm an autistic child. Like, that's literally his line, basically.
He just says it. He literally just puts it out, yeah.
Yeah, and yet it's still something they tread around constantly in media. You see it in stuff like fucking Neon Genesis Evangelion even, and it's never said. It's always just, hey, we know you can work it out, but I'm not saying it in case someone watching at home gets mad. Right. And it's like, it's very irritating in manga. But here, I think it has a level of clear verisimilitude. It feels like it's of the real stuff. To the point where I actually kind of wonder about the author. That really does have me thinking, like, I'm okay with it not necessarily being explicit because it's so recognizable. Like, it's undeniable. They're talking about literal social cues. They're talking about processing time.
I was still inside and everybody left because I was so focused on this thing.
Yeah.
Like, these are all just like, it's so blatant without being... it's blatant without being ham-fisted, if that makes any sense.
I
to
like,
put it.
even though they didn't say out loud, this is autism. But it's explicit enough that you understand it immediately. I mean, we all pegged it instantly.
Yeah.
And we've had this problem before of these series that we read and we go, is this autism?
There's no doubt in my mind.
And it's like, you don't want to apply it where it isn't real, where it isn't really there. But like, you can't help but see the signs of it in places. And so when it is very clear like this, where they all but say it out loud, it's like, okay, thank you. Yes. This is the right representation. You've hit the right beats. Like, okay, we're all right here.
Yeah, the autism is there even if it's not stated. It's like the non-binary thing. It's like that's coming from me with little to no evidence.
Oh well, it's the thing is, you look at Rika's fashion sense in particular.
Exactly, like that's the thing. It's like I love their look. Energy.
She they kind of remind me of and this is a weird one because I'm now going to go for like a hyperfemme character. They remind me a lot of Erd from Oh My Goddess, if you've ever watched or read that, who is like this sneaker-wearing, tan-skinned, like cool girl type. I keep a picture on my phone that's definitely normal and not weird, where she's like doing a cheery pose and saying like, lick my sneakers, and it's perfectly fine. But like that sort of classic manga character energy, and it's weird, it's about video game making, but if you took away the tech of all of this would be like a 90s Shonen Sunday series. Like, it reminds me of so much retro stuff. It's something in the line weight and the use of certain screen tones. It's a lot of dot patterns for screen tones in this. But it was making me think of things like a Yakutate Japan or Zatch Bell. And even with Rika's hair, like the stringiness of it, even that's like a little bit Ushio and Tora, you know?
Little
like
bit of a throwback.
Yeah, it's like it's got total throwback energy, and the times when it doesn't, it ends up looking kind of like Black Clover, kind of like My Hero Academia, something in the faces. Like there's an early shot of Hakuma perfectly side on, and it's like I'm following the line in the nose, and I'm going like, am I wrong? Did he work on My Hero Academia? But no, it was Black Clover. It's interesting the influences you can sort of vibe out of this.
Along those lines, the hairstyle, it's a hairstyle I've seen before in manga. I don't understand what the real world analog of that is supposed to be. Where it's like long flat noodles.
Oh,
like it's wide. So it almost gives me like dreadlock vibes, but they're not dreadlocks. And I don't know what that's supposed to be from like real life.
Believe it or not, it's not going to show well. But if you look towards the back of my hair here, that's what that is. That's wavy hair.
So it's just supposed to be.
It collects in strings.
Okay,
and that's how they're trying to visually describe it.
But because there's no delineation of individual hairs within each,
it just looks like a big. It just looks
like clumps. But it is like
streamers.
It makes the hair look kind of unclean because like. This is what my hair does at the end of a hot day when I need a shower, is being in like clumps like that. But like it's believable. It is also super hard to pass. I do not actually like the hair being drawn that stringy. It's kind of difficult. And then at the same time, you've got the fun of Hakuma's veg head with the three prongs coming up because he's a neat boy, but not that neat. So it's important to know that about him.
Yeah.
Oh, but nobody listening to this can see Maxy's hair, so I will vouch that is.
Sorry.
We will vouch
it is accurate.
That's exclusive content for the hosts. Sorry, people at home. Also,
not
interesting note about
not even the patrons get that.
I'm very tempted to actually pick up the issue digitally in Japanese because it comes out a day late on Bookwalker, so I have to wait. But Hakuma's name, his first name is Dai, which is just big twice, and he's small. That's amazing. If that's actually his name,
phrase.
Like that's that parents do that when they're like, I'm gonna manifest this.
I'm gonna manifest it, and by manifest it, I'm going to manifest the opposite.
I'm going to bully my child into being tall. But it can't possibly be that his name is actually Dai, like literally the kanji for large, because that would be a very weird name. But also, I've never heard that name before in manga, so like it might be quite a rare one in general.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe it's just like some nth level wordplay that we just don't know what it's referencing, or some little
I feel like there might be a hidden pun that I'm going to have to try and dig into. Yeah,
that's what like my translator Spidey sense is kicking in of like, there's something going on here. It's just out of our mortal hands' reach. I want to point something out before we start pulling into the station on this one. I feel like we've talked so much around what happened, but not about literally what happened, and that's what I feel like that has captured my feelings on this manga, is that the autism stuff was what was like, oh, this makes me feel things, I want to read that more, and I feel like it's that's never really been meaningfully served in a manga, and I think that's why the three of us are excited about it, but that like the actual goings on of the chapter were kind of like messy and unclear about like what things, like why are we doing this, what's going on, like, and I feel like we're more positive about it because we are underserved in this regard. Thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah.
I don't entirely disagree. Like, I do think I'm seeing more things from it. It might be the part of me that's still incredibly furious at the youth of Japan about Tenmaku cinema, but
oh gosh, I forgot about. I've got new axes to grind. I can't keep old axes anymore. I'm prepping my axe for Kiyoshi already.
Oh, surely not. It's going to work out all right. It probably.
Don't tell me lies,
I'm paying
Maxy,
less attention than ever.
Don't tell me lies that you can, promises you can't keep.
But I'm very much interested in the sort of series where it can use a subject matter as a tool for storytelling, but not necessarily have to have it be about that thing. Like, I would love it if this turned around by the end of Volume 1, and it's a Game Maker's Toolkit starring Mark Brown, but for the kids of Japan in comic form. That'd be great. They do need to know about things like Coyote Time in platforming. That's good programming. But if it is just going to kind of have video games as we're making it in the background, and here's the emotional beat, that's fine, because, again, everything we found more interesting has been around that, as we're saying. So it's like, yes, but it could be something different.
Yeah, I guess because like you can't come out and Shonen Jump or anything and go, this is a manga about autism, and get people to show up. Really, you go, this is a manga about making video games. I mean, in the vein of like, I wanted to open the show because that was all that was on my mind, but it's like I can't open with like, here's my autistic illness. That's not a thing you can do.
No, I mean,
do you think it would have had more freedom if it was about an autistic exorcist?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we already have one of those. It's called Ultimate Exorcism Yoshi. Well, that one's me pulling too much of my own. Like, he's my boy. I want to support my boy.
I'm gonna pull this back. I'm gonna pull it way back.
Go for it.
Go the whole way back and say, I like this. I'm on board for this. It's not, It's not the greatest thing I've ever read. It's not something where I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be crazy good and everything. But I'm like, yeah, I want to read this every week. This is interesting.
I'm in for that. I feel good about it. I think I'm being fed something that I didn't know how much I wanted to eat. And even if the meal isn't the greatest, I've wanted to eat this, it seemingly seems, for a long time, but never been able to get to it. So
yeah.
I'm glad it's here. I'm curious about its future and how much it will be able, like, I have no idea where it's going to go with Chapter 2, really, meaningfully, so...
I just want it to make it past Chapter 12, to be honest.
Is that the line now? 12?
I don't think we've had a sub 15 in a very long time, but I've been living in the past.
15's already wild. What's the what died super early? Was it Anemone, or was there another one that was like uber?
Anemone was
Dear Enemy,
17, right?
And
17.
The series by the I'm From Japan guy that had the guy who got turned into a robot. Ichigoki's Under Control.
Oh, yeah. I was going to be like, from author, I'm like, I can't do that. Just on top of,
what did Psych House get to? Psych House was way too short. But
Psych House was pretty short, but I want to say that got to like 17. I
think
it literally takes me 2 seconds to look it up. Why am I just guessing?
Looking up things on a podcast is how you destroy the podcast, even though it hasn't stopped us.
It's very important to be confidently wrong about things. My entire brand is based on being shakily correct, so it's a good balance.
There's nobody around to call you out. You just become ipso facto correct.
See, I go the other way.
I'm good at this.
17. There you go.
I should be a researcher.
I've got all this random information, so I go, well, I think maybe it could have been this
Based
thing.
on these other things.
Just got to preface it with, I have no idea, but there's information in my brain that could be correct.
Yeah. Maxy, how are you feeling about it?
I'm overall positive. I'm not much enjoying Weekly Shonen Jump nowadays, but the things I have enjoyed that have popped up recently have felt comfortable. Like, the main thing I've enjoyed so far this year has been, of all things, Hime-ten, which is a very unadventurous series, but it's incredibly reliable. It is exactly what one of those looks like. And so this is that, except for it's doing one major thing so different that it's actually thrilling. So, like, I'm on board. I'm super on board.
Isn't that what we need, though? We need things that are doing something different. If it's just always the same thing, if it's just another new Exorcist manga, it's like, what are you doing? But when you throw in an Exorcist manga that's doing something real funny, real well,
when you've got an Exorcist manga that's just Witch Watch, then you're like, yeah, great, I love Witch Watch, and this is that too. Well, then that might still technically be familiar, but regardless, it is also very good. Ultimate Exorcist Kyoshi.
Every week I read it. He's my boy.
I'm like,
I think
30.
Yokai Bust.
Wait, am I behind on it? Let's find out together. Am I behind?
Did you read the new chapter from today, from hours ago?
I haven't yet. Don't spoil it.
Yeah, Brad has not.
I am up to date aside from today's chapter, which is really good for me because some series I love, like Kill Blue, I've just settled on being. When was the 16th of June? Months ago, 3 months. I'm very far behind.
I think that might have been around the time that I was just like, I'm going to take a little Kill Blue break. Okay.
Everybody had the same feeling.
Back on train. I think it was just because I got exhausted being in the Resident Evil mansion. We're talking about other manga. Okay. Trying to land the plane. Would you pay money to buy the first tankobon of this to keep reading it?
I'm gonna let Maxie go first.
Okay, Maxie,
statistically, it's my job to do that.
If it wasn't your job, that was always so much of these like rating things was like, if you weren't a part of the death cult, would you of your own volition, if you were on a desert island and you had a tenner, or however much a manga costs, this is falling apart very quickly. If you did not have to do research, would you buy it of your own volition for funsies?
A volume of manga from Japan costs like $2.50 digitally, so like, yeah. But also, it's good.
But see,
I will buy this. I want to support this.
There's a big difference there because, and this is why we specifically say, would you buy a physical volume?
Yeah.
Because
would you buy a physical?
Yeah, the level of engagement necessary between I'm spending a couple bucks to buy something digitally
or
versus
the subscription cost.
I'm spending what I could use for lunch instead.
Yeah.
to
have a physical thing in my home.
To keep reading. The idea is that you went to this bookstore, you read the first chapter, because that's the gimmick of the podcast, and you went, will I pay money to take this home with me to keep reading?
Yeah.
Okay,
or will Brad take it home and then I ask him what happened or borrow it from him? It's usually where this goes.
I'll give the shitty answer. No, I would not pay money to physically own a single manga from Weekly Shonen Jump right now.
That's fine.
Black Clover left.
Very valid.
That was the only one I would want to buy physically. The only one I do buy physically. Every single other one can kick rocks. Like, they're good, but they're Weekly Shonen Jump good.
There's an additional component to this that's, it's different for everybody because we all have various levels of like, how much is $10 worth to us? How much is the space of that book in my home?
That's fine. That's mainly
worth
my thing.
To us. So it's a multi-level. It's a multi-level question.
Like, I'm incredibly poor and also have limited space, so like, stuff really has to be good. Like, you need to be like #DRCL levels good for me to absolutely have to buy you.
I'm not poor, but I have very little space available. But I am pickier about that. Although we've had like 3 or 4 recently that I'm like, yeah, give this to me.
The recent Jump clutch you've been very up on. So
I would say for this one, I'm gonna say no. So as much as I enjoyed this first chapter, this doesn't seem like the kind of series where I am invested enough that I want something physical in my hand for it. It's very easy to go, oh, I'm going to keep reading this with the Viz subscription that I already have.
I will.
Because it's definitely worth my time once a week. Maybe by the time we get to the end of the first volume's worth of chapters.
That's the thing. Who knows? We don't know.
As of the first chapter, I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is something I need to own.
I would go back to the bookstore and just read more chapters at the store, and I would not buy it, but I would be curious. That's the flavor.
When it shows up in the library.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lass of the Red Rivers.
Yeah, thank you, Lass, for getting me to get out and get a library.
I think the thing as well is like if you're buying a physical volume, you kind of want it to feel like an art piece, and so color art and cover art comes into a lot. And like the color work for this is just some kind of clumsy marker work. Like it's of a standard that you wouldn't really expect nowadays. And I think the series is good. That color work is just okay. I wouldn't necessarily want to have that volume cover on my shelf.
Interesting. Okay. The way I formatted that question was because we all have the subscription, we're reading it digitally, so it's the hump to get over of would you keep reading this is so small. And that was why it was always like, would you pay actual money to get a physical thing to know what happens next?
Yeah.
And that was the sort of like, I didn't think about the other things, which now I'm going to think about now. That's why it's fun. I've only been able to ask Brad this question for a while, so...
I'm nothing if not a person who can take a simple question and make it complicated.
No, it's good. It opens
you mean a
the mind up on
podcaster?
things. Exactly. But yeah, I didn't think about it as like, because it's like none of these we know if they're like trendy or artsy yet. Like none of them are anything. They're the first chapter, and we literally know nothing else. Like obviously, spoiler alert for a billion months from now, when the second episode we record today comes out, that is a long-running Finnish series. So the concept of buying the first volume of that is a lot different than buying the first volume of this, where there's not even a first volume of chapters out.
Yeah.
So.
But that's the beauty of this show.
It's the beauty of this show, and sometimes we've been doing more of these ones that have been going for a while. They're complete, so it's nice to come back to the poisoned well and drink from it again and go, I don't know.
It's not called shonen patiently waiting with a gun, is it? It's jumping the gun. You've got to decide early before you've got the full context. That's why we've been doing it. We've been recording these now that we have the new release schedule. We're recording these literally the day they drop and releasing them that same week, so there's no idea to know what happens next.
Yeah. These are itchy trigger finger episodes.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I wish we would have come out of that at the start. I love that.
Next time.
We'll remember that for next time. And I do believe with that, we are at the end. Friend of the show, guest on the show, Maxy Bee. Do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Absolutely. You can find the podcast I research for at shonenflop.com, where they go and talk about cancelled series. That's the other end of this equation. Usually I'm just a background element trying to keep them on course, but if you subscribe to their Patreon and give them money, you can also find the extensive notes I do for every single episode. Other than that, you can find me on Blue Sky.
Someone else money to find my thing. I love that.
Give someone else money.
That used to be when we said, like, go to their Discord to play this game we're talking about.
Yeah, but at least we weren't telling people to give them money.
True.
It's a tricky one.
You should join
also
the
give us
Shonen Flop
money.
patron because you need to be a patron in order to listen to the bonus Patreon episode
that you were on,
that I was on very
well.
recently.
That's a twofer. You get Maxy Bee notes and a bonus episode with Brad. That's
You've got to listen to Brad talk about an absolutely dogshit piece of garbage.
What a ride that was.
What a rush.
Right. You can also find me on Blue Sky at Maxy Bee, where I, every single weekday, add new albums to my list of every album ever ranked. I started this at some point in January. I have 329 albums as of this recording on the list. It is incredibly good. My opinions about music are correct. I do theme weeks. I take recommendations. It's purely for my own satisfaction, but I think people are happy that I'm enjoying doing something that's not manga, so, like, it's a fun time.
It's a vacation.
it's one of the only things outside of my family that sparks joy in me. So it's good.
Oh, feel many emotions with that.
But it's good to find it.
Yes.
Just don't stop searching.
Yeah. Oh, and I guess with that, Brad, hit me with the regular plugs.
Yeah, so as always, we want to thank Segoy for partnering with us. I won't bore you with the details, but our listeners can use code APR15 or check the link in the description, get 15% off their first order. We also want to know what people think. Find us on social media. You can find all those links on our website, animepodcastreincarnation.com. Hit us up on Discord. You can also leave comments on the episode posts up there. So come chat with us. Also check out our Patreon. Our supporters get perks like getting to vote on which series we cover on heroin addiction. Bonus episodes are up there, as well as getting the high-quality stereo version of the podcast early. And today, I'm going to announce a new thing, a Patreon goal that we're going to start.
Oh my gosh.
Not an ambitious goal.
Got to start somewhere.
We need an additional $9.
What a goal.
I'd like to make the podcast feed put the high quality stereo version out for everybody instead of just on YouTube and for Patreon.
It's the everybody goal.
So if we can get an additional $9 worth of patrons, you can be the reason why everyone else gets to listen to the high quality stereo version.
I like that.
We'll get a special shout out if you're that patron that gets us over that. So
it's just over the line.
But we still shout out our patrons. So at our Reincarnator tier, we've got Cake Dwarf and Moon. At our Merchant tier, we've got Kill Hour. And last but not least, at our Commoner tier, we've got Rena.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you once again, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Maxy Bee, for guesting on this show. Make sure you listen to the other podcasts on this feed, including the new series that will be coming out very soon from the time you hear this episode.
Next week.
Just
a couple days.
From the day this drops. And, okay, guys, I think it's time. Shonen Jumping the Gun, the video game! I'm too strong.
I mean, there's you're Kermit, arms up in the air, loud noise. That's the gimmick.
I do not need a microphone.
My voice is fucking
powerful. But that is
still the best part. It's just a little fucking afterwards. That's
the Kyle Gass little echo. Okay, no more distractions. Okay.
I used to smoke back in the day, but only when I could steal someone else's cigarettes. I would never smoke under my own steam. Because it's smoke, it's not actually steam.
You can't get cancer if it's someone else's cigarette.
Exactly. They get it instead.
Obviously.
Oh, I immediately lost my train of thought.
Oh, gosh. It's like we both were like, Max is going to talk, shut up.
No,
I definitely...
Sorry, I was going to say, when it comes to the sort of... No, I think I have actually lost it. Let's ignore it. Let's move on.
Let's go. It felt good to not be at cross odds.
Yes, I'm such a soothing influence that it makes everybody agreeable.
I think because it wasn't like an over-the-top... I don't know. I felt whatever I did about Ichi the Witch, though today's chapter I enjoyed.
I had dropped the series, and I came back, read the chapter, and
I know when you said that, I'm just like, I thought I was going to be done with it. I'm like, but what if I gave it one more shot?
Yeah, I just
I was happy because I liked it.
And I'm still... I don't know if I'll come back for the next chapter still. Like
for Ichi or Shinobi?
For Ichi and Shinobi. I'm up to date on 6 series, and that feels pretty comfy. I don't want to risk getting up to double digits again, so it's like, do I really commit to a new title? Like this one, I'm going to at least casually keep going with. But there's this part of me that, again, I see that I've not read Chojo since the middle of June, Kill Blue since the middle of June, and I'm just like, is this a sign that I'm finally ready to graduate Shonen Jump? And the answer's no, because I've been at it for 20 years. I can't escape. I'm cursed to do this forever.
You can just do what we do, and we read the first chapter, and if it sparks joy, you keep going, and if it doesn't, you stop, you know?
I mean,
the problem is, my
that's why I'm saying my position, Brad, not yours. We're trying to help them.
My standards for chapter 1s are actual nightmares, because the way I generally treat it is a chapter 1 has to be 5 stars good for me to keep going. But most first chapters are 5 stars good, because it's supposed to be the best thing they can do.
That's not been true of many recent Jump.
It's not been true of many recently. Tellingly, there's very little I'm reading that's recent.
That's good.
Like it's Kyoshi and Hime.
You're still reading Kyoshi, so you and me are simpatico. We're cool. You're chill.
There will probably be a point where I end up giving up on it for the same reason I gave up on Witch Watch, which is that it's got a lot of words. But the thing it has above Witch Watch is it also has like visual things going on all the time. Like
there's funny pictures.
Like Witch Watch has a lot of very good art, but it's sandwiched in between a million fucking words.
Sometimes that's the bit of it. I've also gotten back on and fallen off the Witch Watch horse because it's something that I think I would if I was reading it week to week, that's what I'd do. But I was just like, we've done too much to go back into gag week territory, and I just kind of got tired. I get tired of things a lot, so
that's right. It's not a gag series, but that's okay.
Is that a first-person shooter? Or?
Oh my goodness!
I mean, you are American, right?
It doesn't take place in a school.
Hey,
just firing off live rounds here. That's what's going on.